is this your first time at an event like this sort of expo?
No, I actually came to the London Expo 4 years ago this month, and it has grown massively.
So you've obviously seen all the fans who dress up in the costumes.
Of course.
What do you think of those costumes?
I think it's fantastic. I mean, but people in general need to lighten up and loosen up and go out and celebrate. So it's this time where, at least for the weekend, people are free and they're expressing themselves. And I know that a lot of people come to events like this once a year, and this is their time to let it all hang out. So why not? I think it's great.
So obviously you get to meet the fans face to face. Is that really enjoyable for you?
For me it is, because I love people, as evidenced by the fact that when I'm not filming, I travel all over the world as a motivational speaker. So I really, really love people, and I love the shapes and sizes they come in, and their stories and their dialects and their quirky habits, and I just love people. So yeah, it's beautiful.
In your career, what would you say was the big break that kind of sort of launched you, really?
It would have to be the film Under Siege, which was in 1992. I had had a number of successes along the way, but that was the defining moment where people came up to me on the street often, and I've never looked back since that point in time. There were a couple of really big career highlights. I did a film in 1988 called 84 Charlie Mopic, which very few people saw, but it was a critical success, a 5-star picture by all the reviewers, but it wasn't seen by a number of people. And then, Under Siege was it. And then for television, I did 3 series right in a row, all of which were hits. I started out on CSI 10 years ago as the sheriff on that show for 1 year, and then at the very end of that season, I got added to the cast of The West Wing and 24, and for a period of about 4 months I was doing all 3 series, jumping from week to week and trying to remember which one do I sound like this on, because I'm a dialectician, so I use a lot of different dialects for roles, and you've got to be careful and make sure that you're not doing Aaron Pierce when you're on The West Wing or the sheriff, which that one takes place in Las Vegas, so I really dropped a thick Southern accent. I mean, relative to you guys, I know it sounds quite a bit different, but to us, it's perceptible. There's a big difference between me sounding like this or me sounding like this. It's a whole different thing. 24 is, I honestly believe I'm 51 now, and I strongly suspect that if I make it to triple digits, right, if I make it to 100, I honestly believe that my favorite role of my career will have been the role of Aaron Pierce.
So are you looking forward to seeing the 24 movie next year?
Yes, and I don't know if I will be in it or not. I hope to be, because I didn't do the final season of the show, but there's a lot of talk, a lot of speculation. None of us know anything except that the film is allegedly being done in London and Prague, and that's stuff that's out on the internet. But originally they thought they would do it this year, but I now know it won't film until either spring or summer of next year. So it'll be right here in your backyard, which is great.
You've worked on quite a variation of films, and also I noticed you was in George Clooney's Good Night and Good Luck.
I've done 2 films with George.
Yeah, what was the other film you did with George?
I did a film called The Men Who Stare at Goats.
Oh, of course. Yes.
Right, with George Clooney and Jeff Bridges, Kevin Spacey. Silly movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did Good Night and Good Luck, which George directed, which was great. He's fun to work with.
What was it like doing a drama that was kind of about a part of American history that was quite important, that kind of reflected what was going on in the current history of America?
Yeah, it was a fascinating period in our history, and I think the fact that they opted to shoot the film in black and white was perfect. I mean, it was such a good decision, and it allowed them to intercut stock footage and archival footage and make it all work as if it was seamlessly edited, for one thing. And I had the privilege of meeting a gentleman by the name, did you see the film? The gentleman who was on trial as a man for his father's Serbian connections was a gentleman by the name of Milo Radulovic, not a character, a real guy, that was his name. And Milo when George hired me, he brought me down to CBS Studios, and he was showing me, this is right in Los Angeles, he's showing me on one of the sound stages. He said, let's take a walk and look at it. The soundstage was completely replicating the network in New York back in that period in time. And he shows me around, and I am just fascinated by how accurate it is, because I've seen the footage, the archival footage, and it matches up visually perfectly. And then he says, Glenn, if you'll just turn around. And now, mind you, I had just watched about 30 minutes of footage of Milo Radulovich when he was on trial. And George says to me, if you'll turn around, please, I'd like you to meet Milo Radulovich. And I went, wow, because there was this time cut, and the time cut was something like 50 years. That's trippy. When you're watching for 30 minutes a man you've never seen, and you're studying him in his 30s, and 30 minutes later he says, here he is, and it's a guy in his 80s. And now Milo is gone. So I'm really grateful that I got to have that experience.